Good morning. Welcome to The Human Author. My name is Jen Cantwell, and today I'm going to be reading from my epic fantasy series, Light Chaser. The book today is The Warning, and I'm on chapter 25. If you'd like to learn more about the Light Chaser series, you can go check out my author website at jbcantwell.com. I'm here every Friday at 9 o'clock Pacific reading the work from the week before. So I'm going to go ahead and start. Once we had been walking for a few minutes, the fire in my hand guiding us through the pitch-black tunnel, I paused, looking back at them. I feel like I need to explain something, I said, feeling guilty already. What now? Kenneth said. We've just gotten moving. I think we should. You might feel differently after you hear what I have to say. It's only fair for me to come clean. Silence. No one uttered another word. At first, I struggled to begin. But like any thief with a conscience, soon my words came out in a rush. I'm not who you think I am, I said. Kenneth frowned. You mean you're not Bree? I backtracked. No, I am. That's not what I mean, though. I've done evil things that might make you question whether or not you want to come with me. Listen, we don't have a lot of time until daylight, and I think we should use the early morning to our advantage, Kenneth said. It will give us a little time to disguise ourselves if we can snatch a few things from the interior market. You don't know what I've done, what I can do, and until I tell you, I may as well be lying. I've certainly been hiding. Kenneth crossed his arms over his chest. Well, get on with it. We don't have much time. I swallowed, readying myself for the onslaught of disgust I was certain was coming my way. Maybe they would even hate me. Certainly they would no longer trust me, but the time had come. I killed someone, I began, horrified to realize my voice was shaking. He didn't deserve it. Everyone frowned, clearly trying to figure out how something like this might happen, how a girl like me would find it necessary to kill another. I met him back in Zamira, I went on. We were traveling toward Eagleview, but then we got into an argument, and I ended up strangling him. He was so good, innocent despite his age. To say he didn't see me coming wouldn't be accurate, but I don't think he was expecting what happened next. Suddenly, both Brennan's and Adair's eyes grew wide. What was the fight over? Kenneth asked. I looked down at my feet, trying to figure out how I could explain the effect that light had on me, had on my soul and my body. I was no different than any common drunk in a certain way. Only the thing I was addicted to was far more powerful than anything one might find in a tavern. We fought over what was left of our light, I said. For a moment, I tried to raise my gaze and look at my friends, if I could still call them that, straight in the eye. I failed to do so, so I continued. Ever since Zamira, I've had this problem. There was a time when there was so much light and no restrictions. During those times, I drank my fill as if I were drinking a glass of water from a lake. It made me feel so powerful, and I was able to sustain myself for days and days of travel, my magic unbeatable. So what did he do? Adair asked. Did he take it away? Did he... I saw you, Brennan said, finally speaking up. You practically licked that vial of light dry. Is that why? I glanced up at him, thinking that maybe he could forgive me. Maybe not. When I didn't answer Brennan's question, Kenneth cut in. Is this all? He asked. That got my attention. All? I killed someone in cold blood. Doesn't that bother you? Of course it does, he said derisively. But I've found that when someone finally admits to wrongdoing, that it's usually a sign there's more to it. So let's have it. In the dim light of the fire, his face took on a frightening look, but I went for it anyway. There's just one other thing, but it will probably be enough to convince you to stay away from me. He raised his eyebrows. I have a special power. Pretty much any sorcerer does. But for a long time, I thought that healing was the thing I could do the best. But it was still hard, harder than it should have been. Then, one day out of the blue, I discovered my true talent. I didn't speak for a moment, anticipating their judgment. And, Brennan said, I glanced up at Kenneth because for some reason it was his opinion that mattered to me most. I can possess other people, make them do what I want. If I wanted to, I could make you, any of you, go out into the square and give yourselves up to Zahn. It would be easy. I watched his face, waiting for it to change the way Connell's face had when he learned the truth about me. But it didn't change. It remained confused, but not hateful. There's another who knows about my ability to do this, I went on. He hates me now, thinks I'm evil. My gaze shifted to the floor again, but then something unexpected happened. Kenneth put 2 fingers below my chin and lifted it so we were face to face. Under different circumstances, my heart might have beat quickly in a rush, and for a moment I thought he might kiss me, but no, that was foolish. Instead, once my eyes were locked with his, he did something most unexpected. He forgave me. I don't know who you've been during your travels, he said. I only know the girl from Eagleview I grew up with. That girl isn't evil. Tears suddenly spilled from my eyes onto my cheeks. But I killed him. He didn't deserve it. He was such a nice man, and he had only ever tried to help me. And you do? He said. You do. Sure, he said. I've been in more than one fight in my life. I learned how to throw a good punch from my own father. He taught me once how to do it, but he didn't teach me how to block. That would have made it more difficult for him to knock me down from time to time. But I killed him. I killed him as if he were the evil one. Kenneth's face stayed calm, and he looked around at the tunnel. Who am I to judge you? You've been out in the world fighting, and what have I done? For all I know, magic has different rules than the rest of us do. I saw what happened when you left Eagleview, the way Zahn attacked you. He was above the law, and no one was able to stop him, not even his own students. My stomach sank. Do you think I'm like Zahn? I held my breath, waiting for his answer. On the one hand, it seemed to me that such a comparison was unfair. Zahn had spent his whole life using his darkness. But on the other, I was no innocent. Who was out there to lay their judgment upon me? But suddenly I realized that I didn't know the truth about Zahn. I'd only known him when I'd just been a child, just a handful of years compared to his decades, maybe centuries. Was it possible that he'd started out good? I wondered how much pain someone like Zahn would be required to carry. I didn't know his past, didn't really know anything about him at all. Maybe he wasn't as bad as I thought. No, that wasn't possible. And anyway, he'd left his humanness behind. Oh, he was still a man, but no longer innocent, just like me. I'd started out good too, and where was I now? Are you going to kill us too? Brennan asked. With this question, I felt my heart crack like a broken egg. I thought about it for a while before I answered, before I decided that he wanted to know the truth and that he deserved it. I can't promise you anything. Don't you see? I'm dangerous. You're no more dangerous than Zahn, Adair said. I frowned. How do you know that? I don't even know that myself. Oh, I saw him several times when he was sweeping the village clear of magic. You're not like him, even if sometimes you make mistakes. Murder? A mistake? I don't know who Zahn was when he was our age, but I'm willing to bet he wasn't the man he is now, Kenneth said. Somewhere along the way, the pain of his life caught up with him. Do you really think you'll kill us? I want to say no, but do you think I'll kill you? This was a strange question, and I wasn't sure how to answer it. Had he considered killing me in the past? I don't know how to answer that, I said. In our world, everyone is a danger, he said. Any one of us could turn, could attack unexpectedly, Maybe someone like you with your particular talents could force us to do something evil, like you did. Maybe in a way you were forced yourself. My nose was running, and I wiped it with the back of my sleeve. I wanted to speak, to counter his words and opinions. But could he be right? I'm willing to take the risk, Kenneth said. He looked at the others, and both of them nodded their heads. What you did was terrible and scary. Scary for us and for you, Adair said. But you're all we've got. Find us another sorcerer who could get us inside the castle walls, and I'm willing to bet you'll fail. I saw what you were like before, Brennan said. You always helped us, getting us away from the lifters, sending us with your father so we could have a new life. Not just anyone would have done that. Most people would have been too afraid, but you weren't. You saved us. Any attempt I might have made to dry my face once more would have failed, so I let the tears run down my cheeks and pool at my chin. I was surprised that all three of them were still standing beside me, that none of them had even so much as taken a step backward. In this group, I was the only one with magic, and they were all but defenseless, and yet there they were, lifting me up, supporting me. I want to promise you that I won't hurt you, that I won't possess you, I said, but I'm not sure if I can. None of us are sure of anything anymore, Kenneth said. I might never have killed anyone, but that doesn't mean I won't. The times ahead aren't going to be easy. If you find yourself slipping, Brennan said, just try to remember who you were when you were with us. Try to remember who you were when you were with Kenneth and Adair. It'll have to be good enough, Kenneth said, hitching up his traveling pack and turning away toward the passageway. We need to get moving. We don't know what will await us on the other side. The longer it takes us to get there, the more opportunity that woman has to rat us out. I recognized the truth of the statement, but I still stood there, ready for more. What might I have done if they'd rejected me? Maybe I would have given myself in, knocked them down and run while they slept. I didn't deserve them. That much was sure, but I felt something in my chest that seemed to have left me long ago. Hope. So I lifted my chin and took a few steps after Kenneth. Once I caught up with him, I pushed him aside. Let me go first, I said. I'll light the way. I didn't know how long it would take us to reach the other end of the passageway, but now that I'd come clean with my friends, I felt so much better. That didn't mean I didn't want to take responsibility for what I'd done, but through the cracks in my eggshell heart, I could feel the beginning of a change happening. I resolved not to let it go. But the hope I'd felt in my heart vanished when we made it to the other end of the tunnel. The fact was, I was scared. I'd met Zahn in battle more than once before, and while I'd survived each encounter, it had been a close shave both times. Now I was set to face him again. I'd learned a lot since leaving Eagleview so many months before, but would it be enough? At first, it was difficult to see how we would exit the tunnel. Above us was earth and no easily discernible trap door. Had Oriana's mother led us astray? No, it wasn't possible. She was waiting on us to provide her with magic for her son. Maybe if I'd been able to heal him entirely, she might have sent us to our deaths. But I hadn't been able to do that, and the truth was, I wasn't sure if the light would work either. I'd given Oriana light before, but while it had helped her feel good for days, it hadn't healed her, not entirely. It was this fact that made my stomach sour, because as much as I detested her mother, I couldn't help but feel for the little boy. All I could do was try. I looked up at the roof, raising my hands to investigate it further. There's no door here, Kenneth said. How are we supposed to get out? He looked around angrily. Did she send us here on purpose? Maybe we should go back. No, I said. She wouldn't have betrayed us, not when it comes to Bran. She's not my favorite person, but I know for sure that she loves her children. Loved. Stand back. The others looked at me worriedly, and I shifted the energy in my hands from flame to lightning bolt. Soon the power was enough to chip away at the roof, and after only a few minutes, cobblestones were visible. I wondered who'd gone to the effort of hiding this exit. Had it been her? It didn't matter. We were about to head into the most dangerous part of our journey. There was no sense in questioning what she'd done or why. Worst case, we'd end up in the dungeons, and we already knew that was likely anyway. Kenneth looked up, touching the stones with his fingers. It's right through here. Are you guys ready? I wanted to nod in agreement, to tell him I was ready, but the truth was I wasn't. He looked away from the stones and into my eyes. We'll be okay, he said. How could he know? I turned to Adair and Brennan, expecting the looks on their faces to be fearful, but I was surprised to find them looking resolved. Adair, for one, had left his other life behind, taking a risk to deliver me to the heart of the city. I wondered if he would ever return to the picking fields, if he would survive long enough to do so. I hoped for two things: that he would survive and that he would not return. I wanted him on my team, and it was with this thought that a flicker of life touched my heart. I knew what I needed to do. Let's go, I said. Kenneth pushed up on one of the cobblestones, and while it wasn't loose, it was easy enough to move. It fell to the floor of the tunnel in front of us, and a thin shaft of light came through the hole it left on the sidewalk. Despite this fear, Kenneth smiled. This is it, he said. He didn't wait for an answer or permission. He simply pushed up another stone and another. Soon we stood beside a small pile of stones. Lift me up, Adair said. One of us needs to look. I thought to argue, but then I didn't bother. I didn't know Adair well, but as plucky as he seemed to be, I trusted his judgment. Kenneth bent over and picked him up as if he were nothing more than a tiny child, and Adair stuck his head up through the hole. He looked around for a few moments, then back down at the rest of us. She was right. There's no one up here. We're in a little alleyway. I glanced at Kenneth, but I didn't need to tell him what to do. He pushed Adair up through to the street, and a moment later he disappeared above us. Next came Brennan, and when he was on top, he looked back down at Kenneth and me. We should hide, he said. Adair is right. There's nobody here, but that could change at any moment. When you come out, meet us off to the right. And he disappeared. For a moment, I thought to argue with Kenneth, to insist that he go first, but he paused, looking at me. Then he took both my hands in his. This could be it, he said. I want you to know that I do trust you, no matter what you've been through, no matter what you did. You're one of the truest people I've ever known. He squeezed my fingers, and for a moment I thought he would lean in to kiss me. I wanted him to lean in and kiss me, but he didn't. Instead, he bent over, cupping his hands for my boot. I hesitated, confused by this new feeling I felt. Where others had thought me unworthy, Kenneth had done nothing but accept me for who I was. If only we'd had more time. I put my boot into his cupped hands and held onto his shoulders as he thrust me up and into the city beyond. Okay, that's what I have for today. Please join me next week on Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific to listen to chapter 26.